Why this story matters: not all news is bad news. This story highlights the kind of progress that often goes unnoticed. Quick summary: this story highlights recent developments related to education, showing how constructive action can lead to meaningful results. Sean Tevlin discovered the group school TGS in the 1960s. He found a much-needed safe space. A struggling teen who had dropped out of public school and battled math anxiety, he arrived at the converted industrial garage on Franklin Street in Cambridge, MA, with little self-confidence after a learning disability diagnosis. But at TGS, teachers engaged with him, patiently tutored him, and rekindled his love of reading. It opened me up mentally and emotionally, Tevlin reflects decades later from his living room in Cambridge. TGS, known simply as the group to its students, was unlike any public or private school. Changing learning, changing lives was spelled in giant letters on its white brick walls. Between 1907-01 and 1982, more than 600 students like Tevlin graduated from this freewheeling schooling experiment, which combined radical democracy, intensive arts programming, and a philosophy that embraced students' working-class background. Would you like to read more good news about education, high school schools, and inclusion? Students and staff in the main gathering space at a group school. Photo courtesy of the group school. Tevlin grew up in housing projects. His parents separated amid alcoholism, gambling, and mounting debt, and he and his siblings were briefly placed in a Catholic orphanage. By the age of 12, he was cleaning offices and accepting whatever menial work he could find, often skipping school for work. I often felt alienated, he says. Without TGS, Tevlin's trajectory could have taken a very different turn. But at the teen centre behind a local Quaker school, a new story was emerging. Alison Harris, one of TGS's founding students and now Tevlin's life partner, remembers the first meetings in the late 1960s. In the early stage, we were just a group of kids, she says. Pretty soon the topic became what was wrong with our schools. They met with people from the Harvard Grad School of Education who came to the teen center to facilitate conversation and essentially try to keep kids out of trouble, according to Harris. It was a moment in history with the growth of a lot of alternative institutions, says Adria Steinberg, a founding faculty member. Many of us had been involved in social change movements and taught civil rights and had a strong sense of inequities in America at that time. We were looking for an educational setting that acknowledged inequity in education. TGS grew out of these conversations and commitments. Historically, the free school movement in America had begun to gel. Harris recalls of this era of educational ferment. Discussions started evolving around, would we like a school? Could we start a school? And lo and behold, we actually did. Harris highlights the unusual access the working class students had to the elite institution's teachers. It's the most fascinating town-down story I know. Although it wasn't official, Harvard and MIT didn't sanction us. People like MIT. Professor Bob Langer, the man behind Moderna and nicknamed the Edison of medicine, tutored me for my SATs. John Kabat-Zinn, a medical professor who became world-renowned as the founder of the Stress Reduction Clinic at the University of Massachusetts, opened classes with meditations at TGS and taught Harris biology. Both men credit TGS with shaping their outlook and ideas, realizing that many of the principles that formed TGS 50 years ago are relevant for educators today. Harris, Tevlin, and other alumni are working to preserve the group school archive resource center, digitizing yearbooks, curricula, photos, and oral histories, and offering resources that still resonate for teachers working with disengaged or marginalized students. TGS's legacy is a potent and subversive testimony to a fundamentally different model of education, one where the students are in charge. Teaching at TGS was collaborative and experimental. Steve Sadel, who was barely older than his students when he started as an educator there at age 19, emphasizes the school's broader educational philosophy because it was really a group of young people who were behind the school. The curriculum had to flow from them. The school emphasized personal and academic growth, not standardized testing. Students and staff at a meeting of the chess club. Photo courtesy of the group school, for instance. Sadel struggled to interest students in any of the plays he suggested. That changed when it discovered Waiting for Lefty by Clifford Odets, a 1930 play about cab drivers planning a labor strike. It was like we were on a rocket to the moon, Sadel recalls, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. Every play we did had a strong working class theme, an awareness of the talents and intelligence, not just oppression, but the brilliance of working people. Steinberg, his wife and fellow TGS teacher, describes co-teaching a women's program addressing early feminist issues. We took these issues on very directly in the coursework. It wasn't necessarily that students were saying, I want a course on X, but race, social justice, democracy, these were the issues they were wanting help with and talking about. In a 1971 documentary about TGS by an MIT student, Jan Steinberg tries to define her role. You're not only a teacher, but you're a member of the community. Or are we all teachers and learners? TGS was not only radical in governance, but in pedagogy. The Math Survival Skills pamphlet designed for students who believed they couldn't do math helped teens like Tevlin, who had been told repeatedly they couldn't succeed. The document also lays out the central principle that embodies the school spirit. The essential thrust of the group school approach is the empowerment of the learners. We attempt to begin with and build on the strengths and skills of the students to help them learn new skills and develop